Hi, I'm Tilly, and this is Tilly Knits. I guess I should say Happy New Year if you're watching around the beginning of January. God, 2025 has really crept up on me. I haven't had a chance to even think about what projects I'm going to make this year. It's going so fast. I still have so much on my needles that I haven't finished. And I haven't even started to think about what projects I would like to do in 2025. So I think we should probably look together, see what inspires us from my Pinterest. Just have a scroll. If you're knitting while you're watching this, maybe this will inspire your next project to cast on. But this is the perfect video if you are looking for something to inspire you, if you're like me and you turn to YouTube and videos like this to work out your next project. We can do it together. I'm pretty new to my journey in knitting and crochet. I started knitting on chopsticks because I didn't have knitting needles and I wanted to just see if I liked it, if I could cast on. I didn't know it was called casting on then. I've made very simple garments in knitting, but I've just started my journey in colourwork. I'll show you my first colourwork project. I am knitting some Selbu mittens, which are Nordic mittens. Nordic mittens. They were first designed in the 18th century, I think. I hope I'm right with that. So yeah, I think it's really cool to go with a traditional pattern and try it with some, I don't want to say they're modern colours because they've probably been around for longer than I have, but colours that I see on my Instagram in more modern designs. So I've been wanting to make something in this red and pink palette for so long, and I really like that I'm doing it with an 18th century pattern. Although the pattern isn't 18th century. It's a free pattern that I found online. I doubt she's been alive that long. Or they, I don't know. But Selby mittens have been around for that long. Yeah, so that's my first colour work. I'm also trying to recreate a 1940s jumper. I've only done the sleeves for that. But I'm sure I'll have something to show soon with that one. But this is the jumper that I'm recreating. If anyone watches Retro Claude, you will have seen that she made this in like reddy, orangey, yellowy colours. I'm going with more earthy tones, pastel, brown, yellow and like a turquoisey colour. Sort of like countryside vibes, I think. It's like countryside by the sea is kind of what I'm going for. With my red hair, I have to be pretty specific about the colours that I pick. I'll share updates as they happen. This hobby is one that I always feel like I'm learning and I have a lot to learn. There's just so much to it, which that is what I really love about it. You never get bored. So I've been knitting for, I don't know, I think it's over a year now, and I've only just felt confident enough to do colour work. And I want to do more of it. I think it's really cool. So I think that's going to play into my 2025 plans. I don't have many of those. So I'm hoping we can just scroll through Pinterest and work them out together. So shall we do it? So first off, we've got a relatively small project idea. And it's knitted scrunchies. I actually crochet scrunchies and sell them on Etsy. Not that this video is like, the purpose is not to sell my Etsy. But I do make quite a lot of scrunchies. But I really like the look of knitted scrunchies, especially this colour work. I'm looking here. It's going to pop up here. Sorry, I know that's disorientating. Still getting the hang of this stuff. But no, I really like the look of knitted over crochet when it comes to scrunchies. They just look more, I hate to say shop bought, because if I make it, it's not going to look shop bought. But I love the patterns that you can do with knitted scrunchies. They just have this puffy look to them. You know, I just really love, as you can tell, wearing and making things that are red. I really like this cardigan. I think it might be the fact that the buttons are so big and it's got that chunky look to it. It looks so fluffy and it just looks so comfortable. And the orange colour, I really love the orange colour. I don't know if that would go with my hair, so I might have to go with more of a blue. Might be quite nice with this cardigan. I'd have to think about outfits, but this idea of a big high collar and oversized buttons does get me a bit excited. I do really like that, and I have yet to knit myself a cardigan. This pattern here on the left is reminding me of, I think it's a relatively new design. I can't remember the designer's name, so I'll put it here somewhere, but I think it's called the Bloom Sweater. It's sort of like 70s style flower illustrations. I really like that, but I specifically like the white background with the darker flowers in the motif. I think that's really pretty, and I think that's far more my style. So I've put that in there as like a less of a project idea and more of a like elements of it are inspiring me. But there's something about this image that is really, I'm gravitating towards it. I really like the idea of having buttons as the main inspiration for a piece. So starting with the buttons, whether they're wacky or they've got a lot of personality, they're oversized, or like this, they're shaped like little objects, and then working out what project to do from there. So I really like thrifting. I can imagine a world where I go to a few boot sales and charity shops button hunting, and maybe working out a more simple design to do around that. Maybe like just a simple cardigan, nothing fancy, but having the buttons be the statement piece. I quite like that idea. I'll see if I can find anything button wise. Maybe some vintage buttons I think would be quite nice, because vintage buttons tend to be more intricate and larger in size sometimes. Fabric buttons are really sweet. We've got another one of these oversized buttons, very comfortable, simple cardigan around that. I really like with this one the use of the eyelets. I think that's the right term, still learning, but those little gaps in the knitting, I really like that. I really like the delicateness of the cardigan with the chunky oversized button. I think that's a really nice contrast. This is a recent addition to my Pinterest. I think I added this last night. I have a thing about balloon sleeves. I think it's my love of vintage patterns and fashion, particularly from the 1940s and 50s. I know these type of sleeves are far older than that, but particularly I really love the quarter length sweaters with a puffed sleeve. And what I really liked about this one is how simple it looks. Like, it's just a garter stitch and a stockinette for the sleeves. It's done with a really chunky wool, which really isn't like vintage patterns. Vintage designs are usually done on much smaller needles, but I really like combining traditional and vintage with modern colours and some techniques. So this kind of felt like that to me. This felt like a more, let's say, vintage structure, but with modern techniques, which would be using chunkier yarn and chunkier needles. I think that's quite fun, and I'd like to try that. I'm a big fan of tiny details. I really like this scalloped edge. I don't know what I would do it on. I really like details like this on like socks and cardigans. It just feels really delicate. I usually work on smaller needles so that I can get those delicate details in some of the designs that I lean towards, or things that I'm not going to say design myself, but sometimes I improvise without a pattern and just see what comes out. I'd really like to incorporate more details like the eyelets and the scalloped edge into my 2025 projects. Now we're getting into the territory of very 40s, 50s style structure in garments. You're going to see quite a few of these here, but these are definitely sort of more delicate in structure. Still with the puffy sleeves, always puffy sleeve with sort of very high neck, sometimes like a boat neck I really like. Sometimes if I'm feeling wild, not necessarily in knitwear, but in clothes generally, a square neck is quite nice. I do like a square neck. But when it comes to knitted, I really like these necklines and how they're using the sleeve with those. It gives that vintage look, and I know these aren't vintage patterns, so again, it's that combining of modern and vintage that I really love. More balloon sleeves, more puffy sleeves. This one really stood out to me. I really like what's going on with the structure here. I like that it's relatively high neck. I like the puffy sleeves. This says here that it's by Irina Heemann, or Heemann. I'm sorry about pronunciation, I haven't heard it out loud before. But this is an actual pattern for my plans, I think. I think I'm going to add this to my project list. Yeah, I'm officially adding it to the project list. It's just so beautiful. Every time I see this picture, I just want to cast it on, which I think is a good indication that I should make it. I don't see a lot of like low-V backs, like open back structures in knitwear. I really like it. Obviously you'd have to do it with smaller needles, something that's more skin tight than chunky and baggy. Well, not necessarily, but in terms of what I would like to make, I think that would be the way to go. I think it's really pretty. I like an open back. You'd have to probably use something that's very breathable, because for an open back you'd need the weather to be quite warm, so maybe use a linen or a cotton. I have some yellow cotton. I can't remember what make it is. Like, I'm so bad at remembering what make of yarn I have and what colourway it is. I sort of just thrift and pick up and get gifted all sorts of things, and I'm terrible. I take the labels off and I just make it. I try and memorise what everything is. I'm not super organised with that. I have started trying to keep labels, like wrapping a little bit of yarn around a piece of the label and then caking the yarn and keeping those labels in a drawer. I need a good system for organising and remembering what kind of yarn I actually have in my stash. So any tips and suggestions would be really appreciated. There are a lot of sweater vests here, mainly because I've made two recently. I made one sweater vest. I'm laughing because it's a bad story. This is one of my hiccups as a knitter. I designed a sweater vest, which basically meant I didn't follow a pattern. I just cast it on and did a really basic structure, sweater vest, what I thought a sweater vest would be. So it was just basic 1x1 ribbing and some decreasing for the sleeve and picked up stitches on the neckline. As simple as I could make it. But I wanted to mix it up, so surprise surprise, I did it in pink and red. I did like this, I guess you could call it a Battenberg cake style. You know those cakes that like 4 squares and covered in marzipan? It kind of looks like that. Well, it did. Because I made the mistake of putting it in the washing machine on a temperature that wool cannot handle, and I used half wool. The other half was acrylic. So the acrylic survived in the washing machine, and the wool, it really tightened up. So as much as I could block it, it just didn't look the same. It ended up just being a little wonky, and the 2 red squares sort of pulled away, and it was just a clear difference between the pink and the red. So I had to save the acrylic and throw away the wool, unfortunately. I'll try and share some work in progress pictures of that sweater vest when it was beautifully symmetrical, because I think if I hadn't have put it in the washing machine, it would have been a really nice sweater vest, and I probably would have been wearing it now. So yeah, so there's a lot of sweater vests here because I was looking for inspiration for those. I've always really liked these fish. I don't know how I'd use them, because I use like reusable bags. I don't have plastic bags. I guess you could put like onions in it. I don't know. Has anyone made this? What do you use it for? I just think they're really cute. If I can find a use for them, maybe I'll cast them on, but they've just been sitting on this board for a while until I can find a reason to make them. Do I need a reason to make something? I think for me, I like to feel like I'm being productive. So I never really cast on anything just for the sake of it. I have to, like, it has to be a gift, or I have to be making it for myself to wear, or to use. Otherwise I don't know, I have this horrible feeling all the time that I'm wasting hours of my day. So I always have to feel like I'm being productive in something. It's a real personality flaw, I think. Here's a lovely example of an open back. This is a sweater vest that apologies, I don't know from these images who's designed them or anything like that, so I'll try and put in the description anything that I can find on the patterns and images that are included in this. But if I do miscredit or forget to credit someone, please help me out in the comments or send me a message and I'll try and correct it. But I really like this open back with the bow tie detail. Bows are such a big thing, were such a big thing in 2024. That sounds so weird to say now. So I like that that's been incorporated into the design, and also covers the back a little bit. I don't know, with open design, I like sometimes when it closes back up with a little button or has like a tie at the top. I think that's always really pretty. We actually have a men's pattern here. It's a 1980s pattern. It's actually a jumper that I bought on eBay for my partner. I didn't realise it was an 80s pattern. I found it and I was like, oh, that's the jumper that you have. So, I mean, maybe it's a bit of a toxic trait as a knitter in that I feel like I could maybe make him another one in a different colour. Yes, it'll take me a year to do, but it's something that's in the back of my head. I could probably recreate it in a different colour. Maybe it's a video idea. Maybe you follow along on me being too ambitious with things and trying to recreate something that people already have. We'll see. I am in love and have been for since I started knitting. I've been in love with this pattern. This is, I think the name's Fable Knits. She makes really lovely designs that are very inspired by vintage patterns and vintage structures, and this, every time I see this image, I think I could pull it off. I don't know if I'm in that part of my journey where I could pull it off, but I'm gonna make this one day. I will make this one day. There's another open back that I really like. I like the detail that it looks like it's wrapped around. I don't know if it is, because I can't see from the image if there's a little tie on the side or on the front, but I think that's really pretty, and I want to see more open backs in knitwear design. I think it's such a lovely detail. So that's my Pinterest board that I put together. I hope you liked it. I hope that you found some things in there that inspired you, some food for thought for 2025. I feel like I've got a few ideas now of what I'd like to cast on, or, I should probably be thinking about what I'm going to finish from last year. I've still got a lot of whips on my needles, and even my hooks. I've got a lot of crochet projects that I haven't finished either. But yeah, I hope you liked this video. I hope you feel inspired, entertained. But yeah, until the next one, bye!